Forged on the gridiron in September. Perfected in the magic of March. For the fans who love the crunch of the pads, prefer a dunk, and expect nothing but the best. It's Bigger 10. Here's Steve Dace.
And greetings. Welcome to this week's episode of Bigger 10. I am Steve Dace. He is my co-host, but never partner, the one and only Aaron McIntyre. And Aaron, we are now full bore into fall camp.
I love it.
Around the Big Ten. Football season is just around the corner. And let's get to it. Let's get to the Big Five on Bigger 10. And it starts right there with fall camps. They are underway all throughout the Big Ten right now. How much as a fan do you pay attention? I mean, you have a notoriously tight-lipped program, right? Like I don't even know what to do as a Michigan fan.
Let me give you an example of that,
okay,
if I can. So this year was a little bit different for Iowa high school baseball. They didn't have the championship series for high school baseball at Principal Park, which is our AAA affiliated Chicago Cubs affiliate, I should say. Usually that's where the championship games are played. Instead, they played at Banks Field in Iowa City, which is apparently right up next to a training facility for the Hawkeyes. They had somebody come up on the PA and tell attendees of the state baseball championships not to look at the training facilities.
You're kidding me.
No.
Which meant everybody was then going to do what?
Look at the training facilities.
Yes. Well, I remember my first year as a student at Michigan State. Yes, I couldn't get into Michigan, so I had to settle for going into Michigan State. It's not just a punchline. I'm living testimony that is true. My first year at Michigan State, you're up there for, well, it's called orientation week. Or move-in week. It's basically keg week, okay? The week you get to move in before classes start. And Michigan State was out there. They had Jim Miller, the old Bears quarterback, was on the team back in those days. And they're out there on the practice field. That's the end of the George Perlis era. And I remember going up and looking through the green-walled fence to kind of get a glimpse at practice. And one of the Michigan State coaches came over at me, man, and just lost his stuff. Scared me out of there, okay? So I understand why you don't want people walking up to the fence and getting a bird's eye view, but you really expected people, after you told them not to look, of course, everybody is going to look, right?
Yeah, and I think that's probably what happened. And that's the natural inclination.
Sure.
Right? What am I not supposed to look at? That thing over there?
Yes.
I'm not supposed to look at that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
just want to make sure.
I don't know what to do as a Michigan fan. Harbaugh is out there raising expectations. This year's defense is going to be better than last year's. The team is ahead of where it was at this time last year. Our goal is to win a national championship. I don't know what to do. In the last couple of years, the guy has gone from one of the worst interviews in all of college sports. It was painful to listen to, painful to watch. It was clear he didn't want to do any of these. It was clear he hates being behind the podium. To now, he was out there telling jokes at Big Ten Media Days. He's out there just doing everything he can to raise expectations of his team. We're not used to seeing that as Michigan fans. Bo was notoriously tight-lipped. Lloyd Carr was notoriously tight-lipped. Gary Moeller was considered the most loquacious of the three, and he was pretty tight-lipped, right? This is not something that we are accustomed to. Both of the programs that you and I root for have had similar DNAs, kind of the Fort Kinnick and Fort Schembechler mentalities in the past, but not at Michigan this year. But at Iowa, they're telling you, don't actually look at the stadium next to you, even amongst the fans. I think that's hilarious. Well, let's get to more on training camps with issue 2. The BTN Bus Tour is fully underway. So far, they have been to, it's Illinois, Nebraska. They started with the schools that are playing week 0 first. So Northwestern and Nebraska are playing week 0. Illinois is playing week 0 again this year. I think it's Wyoming or somebody they're playing. That game's on BTN. So they started there. They then have visited Rutgers and Maryland. That's whom they have seen so far. A couple of the things that stood out to me, Jerry DiNardo said that he thought Maryland was clearly the best team that they have seen so far on the tour, and they've seen Nebraska. So There's that. And you got to learn how to translate BTN Bus Tour. I think we kind of did some of this last year, right?
Yeah.
How you translate these guys, because it's a promotional tour. They are here to promote the Big Ten. They're not muckraking, you're not going to get the most hard-hitting analysis, although DiNardo has been a little bit more pointed the last couple of years, really since Jim Delaney retired or was about to. Maybe he felt freer to speak his mind. But you got to learn how to speak fluent BTN. Like when they talk about how well coached a team is without any specific players, like they did that at Rutgers and Northwestern. Like they talked about, really well coached. They got a lot out of the players. They maximized their time on the drills.
Athletic.
Yeah, that means the team's not very good. I remember one year they did a review of Rutgers, and they were like, I think it was Howard Griffith that did this. Things had kind of come a long way. It was pre-Schiano. Things have kind of come a long way. There's a lot more competency, professionalism out there. Guys are doing their drills and not falling down out there. I remember thinking,
Great.
Wait, this is friggin' college football, man. It's the Big Ten. I know they're not good, but goodness, if you were the coach at a Division III school, you're the coach at Morningside. Yeah, our guys are doing the drills, not falling on their ass. We're off to a great start. But that just goes to show they will try to find something positive to say, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so when they're talking about how well coached a team is without talking about how good the players are, that's usually code for, your thoughts.
Yeah, you have to parse and read between the lines, and like with everything else this time of year, and this specific time of year in August. What I like most about the BTN Bus Tour is that it just means it's football season now, and we're talking about football season. Yeah. That's the biggest thing I like. Secondly, as well, you mentioned Jerry DiNardo. You also have the ability when they are one-on-one environments, like with Coach Frost. I saw the other day in one-on-one environments with some of the coaches and players. They're not going to be completely bare naked honest with their assessments, but you can read between the lines. I think the question was asked to Scott Frost about line play, replacing a lot there. Are you concerned about that? Which is reading in between the lines. Hey, we saw some things that what kind of made us raise our eyebrows, and Frost says he's confident with where they are right now, which is also code for it's August, guys. Nobody is where we want them to be right now. So you got to do things like that. But overall, I think you can glean some things, some observations, if you translate them. And I think you can see the Maryland comment as one of two things. Maryland might be taking a step forward, or at least they're good at the drills. They're good at this time of the year.
They're not falling down out there.
Yeah, they're good at the drills. They've got this time of the year down, and they've taken a step forward, which is fine. That's good. Or Nebraska is not good.
Yeah,
not good.
Yeah, hey, Maryland has, particularly at receiver, some elite skill position talent. They have at least probably a top 20 quarterback in college football. Fair,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's some pieces there. Their offensive line was pretty good last year. I think 4 starters return. So, that's a team that won a bowl game last year. There are some pieces there for sure. But if you're a Nebraska fan, especially because you're further along in camp, right? You started a week earlier because of week 0. That means you're further along.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And so we should be kind of at the heart of camp now. We're in full pads. Things should kind of be humming here. And to hear that, if I were a Nebraska fan, I would be concerned about that. Speaking of Nebraska, it looks like, they had a couple of guys transfer in to the quarterback position there. You had Brock Purdy, the former Iowa State quarterback. You had his younger brother transfer in from Florida State. But it's all but official that Casey Thompson, the Texas quarterback from a year ago, that left with the arrival of Quinn Ewers, he is transferred to Nebraska, and he will be the Huskers starting quarterback. I will tell you, if you follow the account SG1 Sports, which if you are jonesing for college football, you should follow that account right here on YouTube. They use the current rosters to completely simulate the entire college football season. All right. And I didn't realize Casey Thompson was this good of a runner. Like, he's constantly running for like almost 100 yards every game. for Nebraska in this season simulation. I'm not sure we're going to see that when the season starts. I do think he gives them a guy that doesn't have the ceiling of an Adrian Martinez, but certainly a much higher floor. He did a very good job at quarterback last year at Texas. He was not the reason that team went 5-7 last year, but it looks like it is now his job to lose for the Huskers. Do you think he could be the stabilizing force there that Adrian Martinez just wasn't for the last 3 years?
I think they could have done a heck of a lot worse. And that's not faint praise. I don't mean that to be faint praise.
Sure.
It's always going to be a learning curve when you come into a new system, but and try to do things from the word go. I think, though, with Nebraska, the last probably decade plus, no matter what coach has been, Lincoln Riley, what's the guy that the guy who preceded Lincoln Riley?
You mean Mike Riley? Mike Riley.
I'm sorry, Mike Riley. Yes, Mike Riley.
Bill Callahan before him.
Yeah. Or the guy that came in after Bill Callahan that constantly won 8 games, 9 games a year for them and still wasn't good enough.
Bo Pelini.
Thank you very much. I had a brain
almost
fart.
forgot Bo Pelini was the Nebraska coach there for a minute.
It doesn't matter which coach they are. It seems like which offensive system they're running. If they have a running quarterback, if they have somebody who is mobile, they're going to be dangerous offensively. It just, I think, is a matter of details at this point. They could have won most of their games last season. They really could have. They're just self-inflicted bad luck or just self-inflicted wounds. So I don't think you could have done a whole lot worse bringing in a transfer quarterback. Just remains to be seen whether they take care of the details.
Since they have released preseason win totals, which go back to like the 50s in college football, Aaron, no team has ever won 3 games the year before and had a win total of over 7 the next season. That has never happened in the history of preseason win total odds in college football. And that is Nebraska this year. 3 wins last year to a win total of 7.5 this year. That's never happened before in the history of sports betting markets, ever.
Absolutely nuts.
It
Absolutely
is
nuts. But it makes sense, though. I mean, you understand how that can...
5 losses by a total of 21 points, I think it was last year.
Yeah, you understand. And they could easily, within their first 2.5 months, they could exceed that win total pretty easily.
Let's go to a team that obviously you know well, your Iowa Hawkeyes. They've got a quarterback battle going on there. At least we think. It might be more of a pillow fight, okay? Petrus and Padilla, these were the 2 guys that we saw a year ago. Petrus was very good, actually, in the COVID year, but we are learning more and more to take absolutely nothing seriously that you saw in the COVID year, particularly in the conferences like the Big Ten that were not fully committed to playing football, right? And so maybe last year is more of what you saw. The term regression to the mean may not be kind enough. What was the stat you gave me early today since October 4th?
I think it was after October 4th, Iowa threw a grand total of two passing touchdowns.
That's crazy. In the current modern era of college football, man, which is clearly geared towards wide open offenses, that stat is crazy. Even crazier, that team was in the Big Ten championship game. Okay. Padilla, the younger guy, considered, and this is your classic case, the younger guy is more athletic and mobile. Well, couldn't beat out as soon as Petrus was healthy enough to replace him last year. They put him back in the lineup. So you wonder where things are at with those 2. You and I talked this entire offseason. We were just mystified why Iowa did not attempt to go get a kind of a Casey Thompson level of quarterback to stabilize them in the transfer portal. They never did that. Now, Kirk Ferentz has said that he thinks they're going to have a, quote, healthy quarterback competition. Not exactly sure what that means, except the guy that was coaching the offense last year with those quarterbacks, the coach's son, got the smallest bonus of any assistant coach on the staff. But hey, there are new route trees, as you were selling me on earlier this offseason. So your thoughts on what's going on right now in Iowa camp between Petrus and Padilla?
Yeah, word on the Doe Prime is that one of those new routes in the route tree is something called a flea, F-L-Y, fly. How do you pronounce that? Oh, it's a fly route. Some people call it a go route. I've never heard of this before.
Oh, where you like go deep?
Yeah, I've never heard of this before watching Iowa football. It's like the wide receiver just like runs straight down the field and you try to Throw it to
See
him.
if your guy's faster than the other guy. Yeah.
So it's going to be Spencer Petras for sure. And I maintained early last year, now it started to change towards the end of the season, that he's actually a decent quarterback. It's just their offensive line play was terrible. And that was true, I think, for the first 4 or 5 games. But then once the offensive line, once you've got it in the back of your head that you're just going to get hit on every play, that does affect your ability and your mechanics as a quarterback. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. He was no longer good, and he didn't have a good offensive line, and that's why you have 2 passing touchdowns after October 4th, which I think is what that stat is. So it's going to be Spencer Petras. I'm hearing the line is better this year, to expect the line to be better, and it has to be as well. Even losing an All-American and Tyler Linderbaum, most of these guys have a lot of experience now, and that's kind of what makes this click. It's weird, though, 2 years in a row to have doubts about an Iowa offensive line, because that's Kirk Ferentz's calling card and always has been. I do think they are going to be improved. Whether that results in an improved running game with that shiny new route tree, or a passing game, I should say, I don't know. I think one of the other things that's going to benefit them as well, Tyler Goodson, incredible athlete. Haven't had a back really like him for quite a while. I think Iowa this year is going to benefit from the 2 tailbacks they have, Gavin and LaShawn Williams, going straight downhill every single play instead of dancing around waiting for gaps like Tyler Goodson did last year. And God bless him. But I think their whole offense is actually going to benefit from that. Not saying it's going to go from what is it, 120th or 121st or whatever it was total offense last year to top 50. No, I think if you can get inside like 90, that's all we're asking for. That's all we're asking for, because this defense is going to be pretty special.
So what you're telling me is Phil Parker is the most underpaid defensive coordinator in college football.
Make him your next head coach.
Yeah.
If I'm Gary Barta.
All right, let's finish out with the defending Big Ten champions, and boy, does it feel good to say that again. I have been told by some fairly reliable little birdies that J.J. McCarthy has clearly been the superior quarterback so far in Michigan camp. Now, a couple of things. It's early. It's only a weekend. You also remember he elected not to get surgery on that shoulder. He got 3 or 4 opinions, and all of them diagnosed it as just, frankly, severe fatigue. So he rested that arm all off season. He was at every spring practice, but didn't throw a single ball all spring long. He didn't even resume throwing until June. Just started full-time, a full throwing regimen shortly before camp began. So you do wonder, because the way Harbaugh does camp, he's an NFL guy. It's a little more hard knocks than hands off. So could you run into some arm fatigue, with another week or so to go in camp? I don't know. I still think Cade McNamara will be voted a captain on this team. And Harbaugh's got a bit of an out here with those 3 just Charmin soft non-conference games. It's almost like a preseason. Just literally tell both these guys, hey, we're just going to split it up, until we blow these guys out and the scrubs come in, and then we'll make a decision heading into Maryland for Big Ten play who the starting quarterback is. But I am told it is not because Cade McNamara has regressed or anything of that nature. It's just he is what he is. He's a pretty good Big Ten quarterback, but nothing special. And J.J. McCarthy now with a full year under his belt and knowledge of the system looks like a 5-star recruit. So could you really see, you and I asked about a month ago, when was the last time a reigning undisputed Big Ten champion returned its starting quarterback and nobody picked them to repeat like we're seeing with Michigan? Could you really see Michigan bench that guy? Could that happen? Could we really see that? Harbaugh did this with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith, right? When he was coaching the 49ers, something similar. But could we really see something like that?
Here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to start Cade McNamara for the first, 5 games. Then on the road at Iowa, that's when McCarthy gets to go. I think that's what's really going to happen. But yeah, I could see that happening. I just don't think it's going to happen right off the bat. I think if Jim Harbaugh and that staff is smart, they'll do what you just said, split up the reps, even series by series or half by half, but you want to go probably series by series between those 2 guys, see what they can do, because I can't believe you're playing UConn. But yeah, you're playing UConn, Hawaii, and Colorado State.
That's right.
There's no reason, all at home, no reason.
That's the Colorado State to you, brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That playing all 3 of those at home, there's no reason why you should not split up the reps, especially early on in the game when the guys are everybody and your opponent is fresh as well. So if they're smart, they'll do that. But I think the first Big Ten game, McNamara will probably get the call, but we'll see where it goes after that.
All right, that'll do it for the Big Five on Bigger Ten. When we come back, the return of Would You Rather. That's next. Back here on Bigger Ten, it is time to play once more Would You Rather. And Aaron, we start with you. Would you rather make season win total bets based on information in college football preview magazines or what they say on the perennial BTN Bus Tour? Here's why I ask this. Because obviously the opinions are more pointed in the preview magazines, but the information you get on the bus tours is more contemporary. And if you've watched these going back to when they debuted in the first year, there is a certain body language or lingo that you might be able to get ahead of the market in translating, even though maybe that's also very subjective. So what say you?
It depends. My general answer is yes, but I think it depends on the scenario. If there's a team that you're on the fence about betting their season win total because you don't know how they're going to respond to X, Y, Z, getting a more contemporary look is going to behoove you. But I think if you're going to make me choose just one or the other, I'm going to go with the preseason magazines, because those, at least you have some more long-term data, especially when you go into like Phil Steele's and Pick Six previews.
Which is made for bettors.
Yeah.
Phil is, yeah.
Yeah, you have, I feel more comfortable being armed with that data than I do a BTN Bus Tour camp report. But I think in certain situations it can benefit you, but I would stick with the preseason mags. This one's for you. Would you rather start Spencer Petras or Ryan Helinski on your team?
Oh my gosh. Oh boy. No. But that's not an option, is it? Oh man. Okay. This might be the hardest question you've ever asked on here. Okay.
We have vanilla, chocolate.
I need TP for my bunghole right now, as a matter of fact, with that option. I guess I'll go with Petras because we saw more out of him in the COVID year that doesn't matter than we have ever seen out of Ryan Helinski, who people forget did start as a freshman in the SEC. Okay. But I guess I'll go with Petras, if for no other reason he's played in more big games, because the Iowa program is superior, unless it's usually playing Northwestern, but it's overall a better program. So I guess I'll go with Petras, man, but I might just take the Hemlock on that one, if you don't mind. Okay. For you, would you rather do the BTN Bus Tour with its typical crew, Revson, DiNardo, and Griffith, or sit next to Urban Meyer every game on the road this season for the Fox Sports version of College Game Day?
Is he coming back?
He is. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine what the signage is going to be like on campuses around the country for that, brother?
Well, judging by how he did last time around on Fox Sports, is whatever they call that show now, he was actually pretty good. I enjoyed listening to him, and I think he might actually have some fun with that. I don't know though.
If he looks in the camera week one in response to these signs and says, "Guys, I'm so excited for the start of the season. There's a throw going up my leg."
Yeah.
Shows that level, and then kind of winks. I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay, that level of self-awareness. All right, I'm feeling you. Okay,
Yeah.
Something tells me we're not going to see that.
Yeah. The longer I think about this,
Could they show no signs all year on the Fox Game Day show? We never see fan signs all season.
Man, this one's also hemlock-inducing here. I don't have anything against Revson, DiNardo, or Griffith.
Yeah, it's just going to be kind of a bland kind of a thing.
But it's very bland.
Yeah, they seem like good dudes, just very bland dudes.
I don't know.
So do you want very bland or do you want very blatant? Which do you prefer?
Jerry DiNardo, God bless him. Here's why. I don't know why my gut went there. I don't know why my gut went here. I would take Urban Meyer over those three. Jerry DiNardo, I don't know how old he is. I love him, respect him. This is not personal, but he's also an old dude. Sitting around on a bus with an old dude for many, many hours a day, there's going to be some smells.
I hear you.
I would imagine. And I don't like bad smells. I just have an aversion to them. Most people do. I have a special aversion to them. Mine is more special than your aversion to them. And for that reason alone, at least Urban Meyer, he's going to put on some cologne, even though I'm not like going up and sniffing him Joe Biden style. He's going to have some cologne on because he's going to be hitting up the bars afterwards, grinding on some women who are not his wife.
You might get some of the spillover there, brother. He can't service all those women himself. You know what I'm saying?
I
mean, you might get some of the spillover there. He
Smell
might toss
alone,
you a bone.
That's why I'm going with Urban Meyer.
There you go.
Wow, we spent way longer on that.
There was some deep, shall we say, probing analysis of that question. Yes.
Would you rather have Tanner Morgan or Casey Thompson as your starting quarterback?
I think I'd rather have Tanner Morgan. Because you know me, I'm always a go for the ceiling more than the floor kind of guy. I like to go big rather than go home. And while I think Casey Thompson's floor is higher, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Tanner Morgan had the fourth highest QBR in the history of the Big Ten Conference. It's just nobody talked about it because Ohio State had Justin Fields, who had the highest QBR in the history of the Big Ten Conference. But Tanner Morgan, and he's got the same offensive coordinator back in Kirk Shiraka. Now they don't have the receivers they had back then, where they had 3 pros. But I with his ceiling, and here's the other thing I'll say too about Morgan. Last year, man, he was dreadful statistically. I mean, brutal. But he was there, and he kept it together. He was a leader, going through the thing with his father's death and everything else. I just think that my ceiling with him, I know what my ceiling is with him. I don't really know what my ceiling is with Casey Thompson. I know he's an adequate quarterback in college football. But I know that if he's on and has weapons and is properly coordinated, Tanner Morgan can be a weapon. So I'm going with him.
Makes sense.
That'll do it for Would You Rather. When we come back, it is time for the Twitter poll results as well as feedback of the week next. This week's Twitter poll results, we asked you who wins the Big Ten West this fall. 49.4% said Iowa, 29.7% said someone else. That would be my vote. 20.9% of you said Wisconsin. Your thoughts on those results, Aaron?
Well, Iowa hasn't beaten Wisconsin in a meaningful year in the better part of the last decade.
Meaning a non-COVID year.
A non-COVID year in the last decade. I mean, that's 2015. That's
the only
7 years ago.
When Wisconsin literally dropped the ball at the goal line there.
Yeah, so yeah. I'm not sure. And they still went, Iowa still won the West Division last year. So I don't know if this is just taking into account Wisconsin's slippage, maybe. I don't know. But I voted the field. I just think there's too many other capable teams, not surefire teams, but capable teams that I'm not going to go with Iowa or Wisconsin. So if you give me the field, I'm going to take the field.
And this week's results from Ben, who says, I'd take the field as well because Purdue, Minnesota, and Nebraska all exist. And you can't forget Northwestern and their every other year Big Ten run they always seem to make randomly. So here's the thing on that. That's a 4-year thing. Prior to the last 4 years, Northwestern was actually a very consistent winning program under Pat Fitzgerald. What's happened the last 4 years is, 2018, they won the West. 2019, they finished last. 2020, they won the West. 2021, they finished last. So there is that topsy-turvy even year thing, but it really is only the last 4 years thing. But that's also, Aaron, why I wouldn't pick Wisconsin or Iowa. I think Minnesota or Purdue is going to win the division this year. And I decided to go with Minnesota because of the amount of 5th and 6th year guys overall on the roster.
Both with favorable schedules as well.
Yes, that's why I like the two of them.
Iowa and Wisconsin don't enjoy.
Yep.
Iowa could very well be a much better version than last year, but still lose more games.
Yep.
Just because of that schedule. So, yeah, I'm going with the field as well. Northwestern, I just don't see it. I don't see any path for them this year. And, yeah, you're right. They have been a winning program, but I just don't know what they're going to do on offense. That seems to be the main refrain every year.
Run the ball a lot.
Even in the years that they've been successful and won the West, I've still said the same thing. I don't know what they're going to do on offense, and somehow they pull it together, kind of like Iowa, just a more boring version of Iowa, if that's even possible. So, yeah, I just don't see that this year. So I couldn't make that. I couldn't make that bet.
Well, that will do it for this week's episode of Bigger 10. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, share, 5-star review, whether you're watching here on YouTube or listening on iTunes or anywhere else. We would love it if you'd help us to find more Big Ten fans just like you. You can also follow us on Twitter in between episodes at Bigger10, at Bigger10 on Twitter. We will be back at it again next week with even more as we get closer and closer to the start of the 2022 college football season right here on Bigger 10.